UAE authorities have informed that there were two Indians among the three dead in a possible drone attack, which may have sparked an explosion that struck three oil tankers in Abu Dhabi and another fire at an extension of Abu Dhabi International Airport on Monday that killed three people and wounded six, police said. Abu Dhabi police identified the dead as two Indian nationals and one Pakistani. It did not identify the wounded, who police said suffered minor or moderate wounds. Police said an investigation was underway. While Abu Dhabi police did not immediately offer any suspects for the possible assault, Yemen's Houthi rebels claimed responsibility for an attack targeting the United Arab Emirates without elaborating. The Iranian backed Houthis have claimed several attacks that Emirati officials later denied took place. The incident comes while Yemen's year-long war rages on and as an Emirati flagged vessel found itself recently captured by the Houthis. Abu Dhabi police said primary investigations indicated detection of small flying objects, possibly belonging to drones, that fell into two areas and may have caused the explosion and fire. They said there was no significant damage from the incidents without offering further details. Scientists in Scotland have developed an artificial intelligence based test that uses X-rays to accurately diagnose COVID in just a few minutes. The testing platform developed by researchers at the University of the West of Scotland is able to detect SARS-CoV-2 virus far more quickly than a PCR test, which typically takes around 2 hours. The technology can eventually be used to help relieve strain on hard-pressed hospitals, particularly in countries where PCR tests are not readily available, they said. The technique utilizes X-ray technology comparing scans to a database of around 3,000 images belonging to patients with COVID, healthy individuals, and people with viral pneumonia. It then uses an AI process known as Deep Convolutional Neural Network, an algorithm typically used to analyze visual imagery to make a diagnosis. According to the research published in the journal Census, the technique proved to be more than 98% accurate during an extensive testing phase. There has long been a need for a quick and reliable tool that can detect COVID, and this has become even more true with the upswing of Omicron variant. Several countries are unable to carry out large number of COVID tests because of the limited diagnosis tools. But this technique utilizes easily accessible technology to quickly detect the virus, one of the professors said. The researchers noted that the COVID symptoms are not visible in X-rays during the early stages of infection, so the technology cannot fully replace PCR tests. However, it can still play an important role in curtailing the virus's spread, especially when PCR tests are not readily available. The team now plans to expand the study, incorporating a greater database of X-ray images acquired by different models of X-ray machines to evaluate the suitability of the approach in a clinical setting. China's population grew to 1.4126 billion by the end of last year, increasing by less than half a million as the birth rate fell for the fifth consecutive year, stoking fears of a looming demographic crisis and a consequent economic slowdown in the world's most populous nation. At the end of 2021, China's population on the mainland has grown to 1.4126 billion from 1.412 billion in 2020, the National Bureau of Statistics said. China's population increased by 480,000 in a year-on-year comparison from 2020 as per the NBC data. The number of new births in 2020 stood at 10.62 million, down from 12 million in 2020, Hong Kong-based South China Morning Post reported. Earlier this month, Henan Province, the country's third most populous administrative region, reported that its number of newborn children fell to 920,000 in 2020 as a 23.3% decline from 2019 as the birth rate dropped to 9.24 births per thousand people. Experts have warned that a demographic turning point may be around the corner in China, threatening its booming economic growth, the Post report said. In such a situation, the ratio of people in the workforce and dependent persons retired with pension and other benefits may be adversely affected, straining the economy. The Chinese provinces have started announcing a slew of supportive measures to motivate couples to have 3 children to prevent a steep decline in birth rates. Defending his decision to pull troops out of Afghanistan, which resulted in the Taliban gaining control, US President Joe Biden said, "I make no apologies for what I did." However, he said he felt bad about what happened after that as a consequence of Taliban's incompetence. He said, "I make no apologies for what I did. Had we stayed, we would be asked to put between 20,000 to 50,000 troops back in. Do I feel bad about what is happening as a consequence of Taliban's incompetence? Yes, I do. I have a great concern for women and men who were blown up on the line at the airport by a terrorist attack against them," he said. At least 103 people were killed and over 143 were injured in 2 explosions that rocked the Kabul airport in August last year. 13 US soldiers, including 12 Marines and a Navy medic, were among those killed, and 18 other service members were injured in the Kabul airport blast. On August 31, 2021, the United States completed the withdrawal of its forces from Afghanistan, ending 20 years of war that culminated in the militant Taliban's return to power. Since then, Afghanistan has been reeling under a massive humanitarian crisis with the freezing of international funds that the Taliban take over. Several are facing starvation. Afghan women and girls are also protesting about their rights, which has been curtailed by the orthodox regime. Hong Kong authorities said Tuesday that they will kill about 2,000 small animals, including hamsters, after several tested positive for coronavirus at a pet store where an employee was also infected. The city will also stop the sale of hamsters and import of small mammals, according to officials from Agriculture, Fisheries and Conservation Department. The pet shop employee tested positive for the Delta variant on Monday, and several hamsters imported from the Netherlands at the store tested positive as well. According to US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, animals do not appear to play a significant role in spreading coronavirus, But Hong Kong authorities said they are not ruling out the transmission between animals and humans. We cannot exclude the possibility that the shopkeeper was in fact actually infected from the hamsters, said Edwin Sui, a controller at Center for Health Protection. If you own a hamster, you should keep your hamsters at home. Do not take them out, department director said at a news conference. All pet owners should observe good personal hygiene, and after you have been in contact with animals and their food, you should wash your hands. Do not kiss your pets, he added. As a precautionary measure, customers who purchased hamsters from the store after January 7 will be traced and be subjected to mandatory quarantine and must hand over their hamsters to authorities to be put down, officials said. Singapore on Saturday reported its first Omicron related death, a 92-year-old unvaccinated woman who caught the virus from a family member, according to a media report. The woman, who had no known medical history, died on January 20, about 10 days after catching the virus from a family member, the Channel News Asia reported. Upon investigation, doctors have concluded that the death was due to COVID-19 infection by the Omicron variant, the report said, quoting a health ministry statement. Meanwhile, Singapore on Friday reported 3,155 new COVID-19 infections, comparing 2,794 local infections and 361 imported ones, taking the nationwide tally to 3 lakhs and above since the start of pandemic. This week, one more person succumbed to infection, pushing the death toll to 846. On Friday, the government said that Singapore is likely to see a significant wave of COVID-19 cases as the more infectious Omicron variant spreads through the community, which could strain its healthcare capacity. Addressing a press conference, the Trade and Industry Minister Gang Kim Yong, who co-chairs the multi-ministry task force handling the pandemic, said about 70% of daily cases are now of the Omicron variant, which has become the dominant strain in the place of Delta. This proportion could be even higher, close to 90% or more, he was quoted. Taliban forces on Sunday fired pepper spray at a group of women protesters in Afghanistan's capital, demanding rights to work and education. Since seizing the control of the country by force in August, Taliban authorities have imposed creeping restrictions on Afghans, especially on women. Around 20 women gathered in front of Kabul University chanting equality and justice and carried banners that read, "Women's right, humans right," an AFP correspondent reported. The protest, however, was later dispersed by the Taliban fighters who arrived at the scene in several vehicles. When we were near Kabul University, 3 Taliban vehicles came and fighters from one of the vehicles used pepper spray on us, said a protester who asked not to be named for security reasons. My right eye started to burn. I told one of them, "Shame on you," and then he pointed his gun at me, the protester added. 2 other protesters said one of the women had to be taken to hospital after the spray caused an allergic reaction to her eyes and face. An AFP correspondent saw a fighter confiscate a mobile phone of a man who was filming the demonstration. The Hotline Islamist group have banned unsanctioned protests and frequently intervened to forcefully break up rallies demanding rights for women. The Taliban authorities have blocked women public sector employees from returning to work. Many secondary schools have still not reopened for girls and public universities are shut. As he starts his second term as UN General Secretary, Antonio Guterres said on Thursday, the world is worse in many ways than it was 5 years ago because of COVID-19 pandemic. The climate crisis and geopolitical tensions that have sparked conflicts everywhere. But unlike US President Joe Biden, he thinks Russia will not invade Ukraine. Guterres said in an interview with the Associated Press that the appeal for peace he issued on his first day in the UN's top job on January 1st, 2017, and his priorities in his first term of trying to prevent conflicts and tackle global inequalities, the COVID-19 crisis, and a warming planet have not changed. The Secretary General of UN has no power, Guterres said. We can have influence. I can persuade. I can meditate, but I have no power. Before he became UN chief, Guterres said he envisioned the post as being a convener, a mediator, a bridge builder, and an honest broker to find solutions that benefit everyone involved. He said Thursday, "These are things I need to do every day." As an example, the Secretary General said this week he spoke to the African Union's envoy, twice with Kenya's president and once with Ethiopia's prime minister, in his attempt to get a cessation of hostilities in Ethiopia between the government and the forces in the embattled Tigray region. I hope that we are in a situation in which it might become soon possible to have a cessation of hostilities, and that is where I am concentrating most of my efforts, Guterres said. US President Joe Biden's public approval rating fell to the lowest level of his presidency this week as Americans appeared exhausted by the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic toll, according to the latest Reuters opinion poll. The national poll conducted January 19 and 20 found that 43% of the US adults approval of Biden's performance in office, while 52% disapproved and the rest were not sure. The prior week's poll had put Biden at a 45% approval rating and 50% disapproval. After holding above 50% in his first month in the office, Biden's popularity began dropping in mid-August as COVID-19 deaths surged across the country and the US-backed Afghan government collapsed. The ongoing slump in Biden's popularity is ringing alarm bells in his party, with Democrats worried dissatisfaction could cost them their congressional majorities in November 8 elections. If Republicans take control of either the US House of Representatives or Senate, Biden's legislative agenda could be doomed. In a rare news conference on Wednesday, Biden acknowledged Americans' frustration at the close of his first year in office, but he vowed to make progress fighting considerable challenges from the pandemic and inflation, which hit a near 40-year high in December as the health crisis snarled global public chains. The weekly poll showed the top issues concerning Americans were the economy and the public health. At the same point, in Donald Trump's presidency, about 37% of Americans' approval of his performance in office, 59% disapproved. The Reuters poll is conducted online in English throughout the United States. The latest poll gathered responses from a total of 1,004 adults, including 453 Democrats and 365 Republicans. An undersea volcano erupted in spectacular fashion near the Pacific nation of Tonga on Saturday, sending large waves crashing across the shore and people rushing to higher ground. There were no immediate reports of injuries or the extent of the damage as communications with the small nation remained problematic. The video posted on social media showed large waves washing ashore in coastal areas, swirling around houses and buildings. New Zealand's military said it was monitoring the situation and remained on standby, ready to assist if asked. Satellite images showed a huge eruption The Tonga Meteorological Services said a tsunami warning was in effect for all of Tonga. Authorities in the nearby island nations of Fiji and Samoa also issued a warning, telling people to avoid shoreline due to strong currents and dangerous waves. Island's business news site reported that a convoy of police and military troops evacuated Tonga's King Topo VI from his palace near the shore. He was among the many residents who headed for higher ground. Explosion of the Hunga Tongo Hunga Hapai volcano was the latest in a series of speculator eruptions. A news website said satellite images showed a 5-kilometer wide plume of ash, steam, and gas rising up into the air to about 20 kilometers. More than 2,300 kilometers away in New Zealand, officials were warning of storm surges from the eruption.